Welcome to the Manitou Springs Heritage Museum. I'm on the Manitou, and I'm on the board of this wonderful place.
No, I can't hear you.
Thank you for coming. Is that better?
A little bit better, maybe more. Got no more volume?
No, I think that's it. Anyway, welcome. We're here to hear about the snow run. How many of you participated in the snow run? Raise your hand. Wow, everybody. We have just a few housekeeping items. Please turn off your phones. We are filming this for posterity, and we don't want to hear a bunch of phones going off. And you know what the parking situation is.
Just to confirm.
We have a restroom upstairs. You go up near the front door. If the stairs are too steep for you, you can go next door to the Manitou Art Center. What else? We have a lot of good programming coming up, which neither of us can remember what it all is.
Brewfest.
Brewfest in September over in Fields Park. That's one of our big fundraisers every year, and it's a lot of fun. Cool. You're welcome to come back anytime. As I said, we are recording this. It'll be available on the website.
Yep.
And we'll have a repeat program on May 9th. Our website address is Manitou Springs Heritage Center.org. I'm going to turn it over to Lynn Beckner, who put this whole thing together after months of work. Lynn is also on board.
Thank you, Rhonda. All right, can you still hear me? Okay, so this is really great turnout. Thanks for coming. So my name is Lynn Beckner, and I'm the exhibit project manager here at the museum. I work with a small team of curators that put on all these exhibits that you see around you. And I typically do 1 or 2 exhibits a year. But what I don't typically do is stand up here and host an event like this. But you know what? I volunteered for this one today because I thought, when am I ever again going to get the attention of so many hot old guys? And their wives. And now their wives are thinking, yeah, good luck, lady. So when I first took on this assignment, my first question was, but why? Why would anybody want to subject themselves to freezing cold temperatures on a motorcycle in the snow on Pikes Peak? And then I remembered that this towering mountain that we have over the city called Pikes Peak makes people do crazy things. In 1950, there was a gentleman named Larry Hightower who was on this crazy mission to push a wheelbarrow across the United States. And when he got to Colorado Springs, what did he do? He had to push it up Pikes Peak, so there he is. You think I'm making this up? And then in 1995, there was the A1 piano movers in Colorado Springs that pulled a stunt where they attached some large wheels to a Steinway piano, and it took them 10 guys, a lot of ropes, and a lot of determination, but they got the photo op. And I should add that most of these are just that, publicity stunts. And don't get me started on the peanut pushers. Yeah. You probably have heard this story, but like every good tradition, it started as a bet. And in 1929, we had the first gentleman named Bill Williams who pushed a peanut up Pikes Peak with his nose. Then in 1963, we had Ulysses Baxter. In 1976, Tom Miller. And then finally, just a few years ago, in 2022, we had Bob Salem, who did it in record time in enormous heat in the middle of July. So now, after looking at all this, I'm thinking that what you guys did wasn't so crazy after all. Right? In fact, you know, after talking to a lot of you and putting this exhibit together, what I feel is this overwhelming sense of community that you all have in this shared experience, you know, so it's really great. And in this world that we live in with a lot of politics and a lot of noise, boy, do we need that. So before we get into the interview, I'd like to thank a bunch of people. First, I'd like to thank Bill Vickery, who brought this enormous poster that you see in the exhibit space down from Denver. It's an 8-foot wide by 4-foot tall poster filled with pictures from the 1976 snow run. And he drove it all the way down here in his truck from Denver and even fabricated a frame so it would stand on its own, because prior to that it was hanging in a shop at Vickery Sports. Also, I'd like to thank Mark McDonald for loaning us his wonderfully restored Mako 501 that he ran to the top of the Pikes Peak in 1977. So thank you, Mark. Next, I'd like to thank all of the world-class photographers who contributed photos to this exhibit. First is the legendary motocross GOAT, and that means greatest of all time, not old goat. Tom Pyle. Next, I'd like to thank Jim Bensberg, who is the motorsport photographer extraordinaire. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge the work of Bob Jackson. Bob couldn't be here today, but he is actually a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer who took a lot of shots of the snow run. And last but not least, I need to thank my partners in crime, Brian Anderson and his wife, Chris Floor. Where's Brian? Where'd they go? Are they hiding? All right. Well, as you know, Brian's dad was the late, great Sonny Anderson, who was a partner in crime with this guy here, Bill Brokaw, and they kept the snow run going in the 70s and the 80s. And Brian and Chris gathered a lot of the research and the trophies and the memorabilia from Sonny that you'll see in the exhibit today. So our snow run exhibit is broken down by decades, from the 1930s to the 1980s. The 1930s was the first, the Fab Four, I'll call them, the first 4 people that actually made it to the top of Pikes Peak in 1938. In the 1940s, that's called the early years, and it really truly was the early years, because in the latter part of the 1940s, World War II kind of got in the way. By the 1950s, it was total mid-century madness. 1960s, I call freewheeling fun. And then the 1970s is nothing short of reckless abandon. With hundreds of riders going full on, and a lot of them I think are in this room. By the 1980s, it was really winding down, and of course, it only went from 1980 to 1982 before it was over. So that's our end of an era. So a show of hands, who was participating in the 1980s race? Okay. Do we have Arlo Englund? You're Arlo? Nice to meet you, Arlo. Arlo has the unique distinction of taking first place, correct, on the very last race in 1982.
No way.
All right, show of hands, who was in the 1970s? Almost everybody. Anyone from the 1960s? Oh, we have one. Is that Don Pomgren?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
All right, anyone from the 50s? I know of one.
I think going.
Doyne. There he is. All right. Doyne, you were hiding. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate that. All right. So, for most of you, this man needs no introduction. He's a legendary motorcyclist and a former trials rider. He moved here to Colorado from California in 1965, and his first snow run race was 1966. He wrote a great book about his lifetime achievements called My First 90 Years. So please join me in welcoming Bill Brokaw. Thanks, Bill, for doing this. Have a seat.
Okay. Well, I want
I'll
to
be
say,
nice.
I want to say, looking around here, I don't know why I'm standing up in front. Yeah, but probably any two of you know way more than what I know on this subject. So, at any rate, I got nailed, so I'm here, and you can correct me, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got some questions prepared for Bill, but we want to make this fun and interactive. So if you have a question, speak up. And we'll also save time at the end for additional questions that we didn't cover.
All right.
You want to stand?
Well, yeah, it's a long ways back there. I could project pretty good if I need to.
You're scaring me right now. Okay.
And, you know, I know some guys that just want to stand up, but there's 4 empty seats up here. So, just so you know.
Yeah, come on, don't stand.
Yeah. Okay, what do we got, Lynn? Isn't this amazing? Somebody that's not even a motorcycle rider puts this together. Is putting us to shame, I think.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I don't know much about motorcycles. But I do know how to put on a good exhibit, so I hope you all enjoy it. All right, so the first question probably seems like a dumb one for most of you in this room. But for everyone watching on this film, I have to ask, Bill, can you describe what this Pikes Peak snow run was and how it differed from the summer motorcycle races put on by the Hill Climb?
Well, it seems like it's an obvious question, but you know, I've got to go back to thinking what motorcycling is to me, and it's where the riders, we riders, create our sport for us to enjoy. It's not professional, this or that, you know, and we do it for ourselves, and we do a hell of a job when we take it on. And the summer, of course, is a motorcycle, or I mean an automobile race, and so essentially, when we were on the peak in the summer, why we were second fiddle, and I wasn't used to that because all my other motorcycle events, why we were first fiddle. We were doing it for ourselves, and I got to participate in some incredible things like Catalina Grand Prix, which was all put on by motorcycle riders, the guys that were involved in the AMA District 37 Sports Committee. And they went over there and put that race on for, well, it ended in 1958. I got to participate in 5 of them. And it was the high point of my riding, but it shows what can be done by groups of enthusiasts that just want to put it on themselves. They want to have things happen. And by golly, it happens. Well, the snow run was one of those. It started, 4 people said, by golly, let's go try and climb Pikes Peak in January 1. And one of them was a gal. And in fact, I was thinking about that the other day, that Jip, what was her last name?
Baker.
Baker, yeah. She got to the top of Pikes Peak, and that had to hurt a lot of male egos.
For sure.
And I'm not so sure that maybe that didn't start the Ataman Club. Well, this gal from Denver got a motorcycle at the top of Pikes Peak on January 1st, but I don't know when the Ataman started, so I can't talk about that. But I have my suspicions.
26, I think it was.
Yeah, okay. And so I don't know, I guess that answers the question.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. What do we got?
Okay, so we're going to talk about the how. Here's my long question, and you can respond to any part of it that you want. The snow run was made possible in part by snow plows clearing the Pikes Peak Highway enough to allow the race to continue. Do you feel the plowing operations produced conditions that made it fun or dangerous? And how were those road conditions different on the section of highway past Glen Cove?
Well, as far as the race being dangerous, we didn't have an ambulance on Pikes Peak January 1st, so we didn't consider it dangerous.
But was it fun?
But when you went up there before the snowplow business, why, then it's the challenge to just getting through that snow, and I think about it, those drifts, you can't see the drifts get thin at the edge of the road just before you fall off the mountain. And so they had to go up there and tromp the snow down to get the bikes through there. And which didn't make a very good race, but it made a good adventure. But then when they plowed it, what that meant is that we could get a 4-wheel something or other up there to take the results. And that took a while to figure out. And I can't tell you the year that we finally figured it out, but it worked. But guys would generally take their racing motorcycles to make this climb, and a lot of them had number plates on them. So they'd sign up, and I got number 222, and we put that down. Well, my buddy, he rides another class, so he's got his 222 on there. See? And so then they finally finish at the top, and trying to unscramble the results was quite an adventure. And I remember one year that I was riding a Greaves, and it didn't start. And I signed up 250 expert, and so I started pushing it down the road, trying to get it to start. You're supposed to go to the top of Pikes Peak this way. I was going this way, and I got down there, and that thing wouldn't fire, and I had a tickler on the carburetor, And so finally I was so mad because the whole bunch took off behind me. And I'm holding that tickler down and I'm kicking it, that damn thing. And the gas starts flowing and I'm cussing out. I said, I'm going to fill this engine with gas. And suddenly it popped. Well, pop, still keeping the thumb on the tickler. And at any rate, I turned around and went back, put the rest of my gear on. I passed a couple of 125s, I think, on the way up the hill, and got up to the top, and everybody was there. But I got to the top. Okay. And so I went and waited for the results for no particular reason, because that's where everybody was. And so I got tired of waiting for the results. You know, they were having a terrible time unscrambling it all. And this is before the Dusters took it over, I think. And I need to get Doyne to tell about before the Dusters. You probably, can you tell me anything, Doyne?
The Comets, right, Doyne? Was it the Comets Motorcycle Club?
The Comets?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to finish my story, and then I want you to tell us what happened before the Dusters. Okay, so at any rate, I went home. Next Tuesday, the shop was opened up, and this guy shows up, and he's got a trophy for me. Well, what's this? Well, that's first place 250 expert. I remember the one thing I did see going through the pits when I finally got running was Gary Pomgren had his Montesa upside down on the handlebars trying to get the bean oil out of it. So I had less trouble than anybody else. So that's the bottom line to that. But this result thing was really a challenge. And were you, Doyne, were you involved in any of the scoring or any of that stuff before?
Well, yes, to some degree. The procedure was that if you didn't make it all the way to the top, when you turned around, you would figure out who was just behind you and so forth, and then go down to the truck at the Cove and sign up and say, well, Bill was here and I was behind him, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So we didn't make it to the top of the peak very often.
Okay.
I do remember that.
All right. Well, that's not hard to understand. But then I remember they got a polish on this results things. You got to the top, you got your bike parked, and you got in the line. And so the result was really how you got lined up at the top, which is probably about as fair as it could have been in reality. So I don't know, I got lost in my question.
That's all right.
What did you have here? Oh,
I was talking.
I like to keep things in order.
No, I was talking about the plowing operation.
Yeah, okay.
And-
All right. So we got the people up there to take the results, and of course that's what they were getting in line to check in with. So, but we finally figured this thing out when the Dusters took it over, and that wasn't right away. I don't recall, but we made up number plates, cardboard number plates, about like yay, and one on up. So there's no duplicates. Handed a guy when he signed up a big rubber band and a couple of stir sticks, and say, well, you figure it out. And they did. And I was down there when they were coming down off the top, and everybody had their number plate on. They made it to the top and back down, and I couldn't believe it. The Yankee ingenuity that went on with these rubber bands and the stir sticks. And, you know, we've all been to races where guys bolted on number plates are falling off. But those rubber bands and stir sticks really worked. So from then on, results was a lot less of a challenge. Yeah.
All right, good job. I think now is a good time to take a little break for a quiz. Can anybody tell me what this is?
Picture frame.
What was that? Picture frame, that's a good answer.
That's it.
Do we
Sit
have
down.
Don Sanborn in the room? Don registered, and this is his joke, but here we go. The answer is, it's a snow run in a blizzard. It's Don's joke because he had that joke as part of the Adaman book that he was putting together. He said, we got all these pictures that we're gathering for the history of the Adaman Club, but let's put in this one that's just completely white and call it the Adaman Club in the blizzard. All right, so Bill, you need to come back, and I think you've already talked a little bit about that, but my dumb questions are, what size motorcycles were allowed in the snow run? Were there bike sizes or brands that performed better in the challenging conditions? And how were amateur racers judged alongside the more experienced or professional riders?
Well, there's nothing professional about them because they all go for trophies. And maybe they get a dealer that throw in a spark plug or something. But at any rate, the challenge started when it was a mass start, you know, and we started getting a lot of people up there. And so then you just go get in line. How long you wanted to sit out there, you climb out of your pickup truck cab and with the heater going and go get in the line. And so the guys that were determined, we get to the front. And there could be all kinds of bikes up there. And, you know, a guy have his 125 on the front line or something like that. Well, that caused some real mix-ups. So later on, we decided to try and separate the size of engines. You know, the bigger bikes to the front. And then we'd use a rope to stretch across. And okay, over here is 250s, and over here is 125s, and so forth. And it actually worked out pretty good because people cooperated. And so that was the first time that the start was a more logical wave with the faster bikes up at the front. But as far as what bikes would work better going up there, I don't know that you could decide on that. Ask Arlo, he managed to get up front. So.
Well, for one thing, when you put the big bolts in the tire, you lose horsepower. So if it was a dry year, you never knew what the conditions were. You know, what's your choice? You know, ice racing screws or big bolts?
Yeah.
That was a
something would
important
be
choice.
Something would be a help, and you know, some guys have wrapped some chain around the wheel and rim. I don't think that ever worked very well.
What I want to know is who was the inventor of breathing through the snorkel so your goggles don't fly?
Well, there might be somebody here that has an answer to that.
I believe it was Bill Vickery, Arlo.
What's that?
I believe it was Bill Vickery. That was part of the snorkel brigade. Him and Chuck Jensen.
Well, the last year I tried to ride it before the club took it over and I started working it. I failed. I had to turn around. I could not make the top. I could not see. And so the guys that would really work at it, they were the ones that get up there and enjoy the ride because they could see it. Yeah. And so so a lot of what works the best is not so much the bike as how well you prepared and your equipment and so forth, and whether you got out of the cab and got a good start place, you know.
All right, well,
Use of a gas mask.
Yes.
we'll get
Did somebody
to that.
somebody use a gas mask?
Yeah, I did.
I want your name.
You say Mike Willett?
Yeah.
No, for
Who's our gas mask rider?
Mike Greer.
Mike Greer. All right.
Bill,
We'll get to you.
Yeah, Don?
Mike Willett was the first one I seen up there.
Oh, is that
He
right?
had one of those snorkel things on. He had to reinvent that about 3 or 4 times before it worked.
Well, that was the trick. You had to see.
Oh.
All right, so let's talk about,
By the way, Mike Willett, his cattle ranch is still going down near Alamosa. Anybody who wanted to know that and didn't know it? Okay.
all right, let's talk about mechanical mayhem. After digging out of drifts, many bikes suffered from snow-clogged air cleaners, moisture in the gas lines, frozen brakes, clutches, etc. What was the worst or funniest mechanical mishap that you saw during the snow run?
I don't have an answer to that. Somebody else have an answer?
Usually when you have a breakdown, it's not funny.
Yeah, breakdowns are not funny. Right?
But this picture captured by Comet's photographer Frank Camp shows somebody upright in a drift. And Dwayne, this was during your year in 1959. But according to Bill Vickery, there was never really any major injuries. He said maybe some frostbite, fingers, frostbite.
Well, I remember one report. This wasn't because of the snow. I think it was a place where it was dirt, probably up on the W's, and the guy was on a Greaves. And I can't say his name, and I feel bad about that. But at any rate, he found out that if you went off the road, and the road's turning to the left, you know, wrapping around that way, and you got the bank, he says you never get very far off the ground, but you keep going, and the ground's kind of like right there. Well, you can imagine, you get off the road and you're going down, but you're turning. You know, you probably are 2 feet off the ground, but it goes forever that way. And so he wound up with I think he broke an arm on that one. That was probably a big deal.
Oh,
Yeah, and big injury. God, I've done that trying to load a bike in a pickup truck.
What was the coldest I remember being on the summit?
I don't know, but I don't know what the degrees would be, but it did vary a lot, and we had some years where frostbite. Boy, if a guy let any skin show, he's going to get frostbite, and yeah.
I think
But-
you showed
but-
like the 1980s results that in your letter and the note on the bottom of the results said it was minus 35.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah.
Tom, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Tom?
This is a good time to
inject this, I'll do it real quick, but in '73, I believe it was, everybody knows Bill Ostoff. He had a bunch of firewood tied up on the rear fender. When I asked him, what in the world's that for? He says, well, when I get up there, I'm gonna light a campfire and we'll keep warm. So, after the
What
run was
could go
over and
wrong?
everybody starts coming back down, he's still got the firewood on the rear fender. I said, what happened? He said, the matches wouldn't light up.
Good luck.
Oh, thanks, that's a good story.
All right, we've already talked a little bit about this, Bill, scoring and results. So I poured through a lot of motorcycle magazines to get the facts, but sometimes they were sketchy and the finish times, the actual times, were rarely recorded.
Yeah.
Can you describe some of the challenges associated with race scoring?
Well, for one thing, it's, when you're around here in Pikes Peak used to be July 4th, was all about records and all that. Well, we didn't give a damn about records. All we want to do is go out and have a race with our buddies, and see if we can get to the top of the peak and all that. And so but I can see people asking the question because it's so common in the summer race up there. Well, what was your time, Well, I don't give a damn what my time was.
I made it.
I was trying to keep up with this guy in front of me. So it's a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
A whole different mindset. So, so consequently, it's just trying to do the best. The people at the top do their best to get them the way they finished, and I don't think many guys, when you're in the lead bunch, you're in truly a race, then it's a good race. But then when you get back from there, it's just about being there and getting to the top.
Race against the elements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and doing it right, and
It's
So-
just like your first picture of Pikes Peak in a blizzard.
yeah.
Yeah, so Bill, the story that you shared just now where you apparently placed in the 250 without knowing it, I mean, there was no flagger at the top flagging you in.
Oh, no.
You had no idea,
Well,
right?
the people taking the scores kept inside their truck, and they'd get a position to where they could see. They weren't stupid.
They're sitting there freezing in their truck.
Yeah.
All right. So I still have to come back to my dumb question, but why? So I'll ask it in a different way.
Yeah, there's probably as many different reasons there are people in this room why you do that. And in the Dusters, well, we had to have a New Year's Eve party, of course. So we'd leave there about 12:30 or whatever, go home and try and get a few moments of sleep, and then show up at a restaurant, and we'd all get together for breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning and go up there, and it's just something you did. And nobody ever asked the question about, should we do it? No. Well, hell yes. And it's, back in the day of the Dusters Club, we had Easter egg hunts, and we had scrambles and track races, flat track races, and Mount Pisgah, yeah. Racing the top of Mount Pisgah. We did all kinds of things.
As Bruce Sass would say, it's all about getting the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush. And we've all enjoyed that. And
So if I ask everyone in the audience who has actually participated in the snow run to tell me why, with one word only, what would it be? Tom?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Good one.
yeah,
Fun.
yeah,
Fun?
yeah.
Anybody else?
See, they don't know.
No freaking clue. Hopefully fun was one of them. Or the challenge.
We all have our moments of saying, what the hell am I doing? But,
Satisfaction.
yeah,
That's a good one.
Conquering the elements.
making
That's
a
three.
memory.
That doesn't count. Challenge.
Adventure.
Eventually,
One
yeah.
more thing.
Yeah.
It's because there was motorcycles.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Those are some good ones. All right, so we're really done with the questions.
Sit down.
But
In other
no,
words,
you can stand here the whole time. But this is actually my favorite part, and you probably never in a million years thought you'd be attending a fashion show today, but that's what we have. So we talked about the fear of frostbite producing a lot of creative face protection over the years. And on this slide, we have Gary Bensberg, who is showing off his ice-filled beard. But you probably have already seen a lot of these, and we have the gas mask guy in here, so see, pay attention. So your job is to, we truly don't know the answers. Your job is going to be to try to identify the rider behind the mask in each of these photos, and I'm hoping that some of you are actually in the room. So here we go, gas mask guy.
Yeah, could have been.
Is that you?
Yeah, I don't think mine was like that. I think mine had a hose and went down. Yeah. Went down.
So there was two different gas mask guys?
I don't know, could be.
But you're Mike Greer. I'm going to get your name. Okay.
Up there on the 73.
I have somebody in mind, but I cannot remember his name. He used to drive an old Ford van, a red one, and he was a flat tracker.
It's just impossible to tell. All right. How about, and I hope I have this right, baseball mitt guy. You're all laughing, so it must not be in this room.
It's too bad. I should have brought my mask here for you to show.
What did you wear, Arlo? Your
You
snow?
know, it took, I'm with Bill. The first year I didn't make it. It was too cold. I didn't know how to dress. And it took a few years to learn. And then, of course, I had to adapt the snorkel. But the best thing I ever had was, and the riders that understand, the goggle with the face mask, the Scott face mask that hung down.
Yeah.
And I used duct tape with wool backing it. And it was long enough that it would tuck behind everything and down inside your so there was no skin exposed.
You know what? We might have you. Because I couldn't describe that getup. It was so weird. It was so weird. Okay. All right, so no baseball. Okay. The Black Knight. Any ideas? This was 1973. Tom, you took this photo. No idea?
Good grief.
Yeah, really.
Tom, you took the picture.
Yeah, why don't you remember that?
That was 53 years ago.
It's Rider 33. All right.
You
so-
know, hey, there's the stir stick with going
Yeah.
through the rubber band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see that on Mark's bike, thanks to Terry Weigel.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you'd guess more of these. All right, so here we go with the Snorkel Brigade.
Oh, there's the snorkel. Yeah.
So this is
Two of them.
from one of the 1976 pictures taken by Tom. And we blew up number 146, Bill Vickery, and 180, Chuck Jensen. And they both have those snorkels on.
And Bill said that they felt the first year they used it because it froze up. So they put a drill hole through the bottom of it because their drool from their mouths froze up the mask.
The evolution.
All right, I guess this is a rubber mask rider. Any ideas?
Vanguards. Oh, those are probably made out of plastic.
What I like is the milk jugs
Yeah.
to protect the hands, right? I think that was pretty common. For sure. That's a Bob Jackson photo. This guy called Skeleton Warrior. And he's seen here with Sonny. I think this was after the race as they were coming down. And this photo was taken by your daughter, Carrie.
Oh, yeah. Is it Annie?
Now this guy's showing his eyes, just the classic scarf and goggles. Anybody know him? 1982. Come on, Arlo, you were there. No? Wow. All right, this one kills me. But what if you wear glasses? You really have to have the get-up. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. He's got glasses over glasses, I guess. So 44 years ago was the last one. This I call Strap-O-Rama.
Yeah, there's the They don't listen to that.
This guy had a lot going on here. He had the mask, and then he had something separate over his mouth and some goggles. Was that you?
That's the Scott face mask I was talking about.
Okay. But that's not you.
No.
Okay.
It was hard to know anybody up there. You had about 300 of your friends out there running.
Hey, I got to tell you, sir, my wife Annie made it to the top this one year, and well, we had a lot of stuff you could put on at the house. Let me tell you, and she had it all on. And she gets up there. This was back when you got in line for the results, and so she parks her bike and gets in line, and some guy back in the line a little bit looks up at her and says, "Hey, are you a honey?" She says, "How in the world could he tell?" So, anyway, that was probably her favorite story that she came back with on.
So much gear on, you couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. All right, this next one I call the Red Knight. Just because he's got a red mask on. Any ideas? Come on, you guys.
You don't know these people.
How about Mr. Chap Lips? It looks painful. But I guess he had the scarf up at some point. I can only describe this as the fleece platypus. I mean, what is that? A DIY fleece that was, you can see it really close up in the photo, you can see the stitching that he used. We actually got 2 different photos of that. One was taken by Carrie and one by Bob Jackson. Laughing matter. Come on, Arlo, you got to remember this guy. No? That's hilarious. He's also sporting the milk jug situation. Now, is this you? Come on.
Yeah, that's
So I call that snorkel, duct tape, and a prayer.
That, give up, there was nothing cold all the way up.
So is that duct tape wadded underneath your chin there?
That duct tape was backed with wool, a wool
Okay.
material.
And there's a snorkel.
And
Yeah.
a snorkel.
Wow. So what were you running then? What was your bike?
It was a Yamaha 465. That was 190 actually.
Cool.
I still have that helmet sitting on that shelf.
Do you? Well, maybe you want to donate it to the museum. Wah, wah. Okay. Couple more.
Wow.
I call this guy Friday the 13th. Scary mask dude. Number 1. Who's number 1 in 1982? Number 1 was like pole position, right?
That's probably their year-end series winner of a class of some motorcycle racing. Obviously, he's got Bill Ray on the helmet too. I don't recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah. Which had to fog up. British invasion. This guy isn't even really wearing a mask, but he had such a great British presence. Do you know who he is?
There were, how many participated in 1982? 200, Bill?
I don't remember, but it's up close to that, yeah.
This
Yeah.
Vickery's poster shows 126.
That was a long time ago.
I don't know why I don't remember.
All right, this is my favorite, just the expression. I call this tiger face. Anybody know who that gentleman is? Okay, one more, and I just have no idea, whatever this is. Looks like some office supplies over his face. That was taken by Carrie Brokaw. All right, so that's pretty much what I have for today. So let's take some questions from the audience. Does anybody have any questions for Bill?
I have a little story to tell. Brian
Okay.
called me up and asked me if I'd get up here and say a few words today.
Okay.
And then probably,
Don Palmgren.
yeah, my name's Don Palmer. In 1969, I bought a brand new DT1 Yamaha 250 for Bill. And right before the Pikes Peak Hill, or the snow run there. So I built an expansion chamber, my first welding job. And this thing probably weighed 25 pounds. I bolted that thing on there and I thought it looked so cool. And I get up there, and my brother Gary had told me everybody struggled with face shields fogging. He says if you take a potato and you cut it in half, and you rub the potato on the inside and the outside, you won't have any fogging at all. So I kind of know how brothers work, but I did it. I rubbed that potato on there and set the helmet outside of my car until I got dressed and stuff. So it'd been out there 15, 20 minutes. And I get out there, put the helmet on, it was absolutely perfect. I couldn't make it fog a bit. So I get up there to the starting line and I was in the third row, somewhere about in the middle. And there's so many motorcycles up there, two-strokes that were started, it looked like a heavy smog. I mean, the air temperature would just keep everything down to the ground. And they flagged everybody off at the same time. So when they got going, they flagged that thing off. I got hooked up with a couple guys and got laying on the ground. And here's about 200 guys behind me trying to figure out how they're going to get around me. And I finally picked up my bike, get her running, and I go up Elks Park, and I'm on the top side of Elks Park, and that face shield froze on the inside and the out. And I couldn't even rub it off with my gloves, so I tore the face shield off. I had to stop. Tore the face shield off. I'm still in it, right?
Only now you smell like a
Not giving up
potato.
yet. Until I got a couple miles up the road, and my face and my eyes were so cold I couldn't hardly see. So I had to turn around and come back down. That's when I found out about frostbite, because I got it on my cheek right here. And it was, that event was such a special deal for me. I grew up in Colorado Springs, and we played around on Pikes Peak all the time. We went up Bar Trail on our scooters and stuff and just had a good time. And it was an opportunity to ride that race up there, which is, I thought was just incredible. I was so excited, I was like a little kid at Christmas time. And until afterwards. But I really want to thank Bill Brokaw, Sonny Anderson, the Dusters, for putting on that event so many years as they did. They were so dedicated to our sport, and they kept it up all the way through into the 2000s, really, with the Pikes Peak.
Until the kid was killed up there on July 4th, and the city says, oh, no, now you got to have insurance. Yeah. Same coverage, insurance, as they have in the summer for the snow run. Well, that, of course, was completely, no point in even looking into it, because it was totally unaffordable, if you could even have got the insurance.
I'm surprised they let us do it anyway.
Well, when you think back on to the 38 start, I don't know why they went up there thinking they could even get on the road.
I think they've been up there drinking.
You think?
But that's the story.
But they could get on the road somehow.
I heard it was a bet.
And then, but I was also thinking about that relative to this event, that those highway guys, by the time the Dusters were really into it, the highway guys they took care of us, but they were unseen. Just the way you want it, that they, we'd sit down at the gate and take the sign up and all, and they got, I think a portion of that sign up went for the gate fee, but they were just, everybody was so cooperative until finally we lost that fella in the summer, and then that ended it. Ed,
One thing's being left out.
okay.
The race didn't start at Glen Cove, it started at the gate at the bottom of the hill, and the race was in the bands coming up the mountain. Because it was first come, first served to get your gate pick.
Yeah, right.
And the parking lot at Glen Cove was pretty small, so you really had to do combat parking, right? Yeah, you mentioned protection too, Bill, and one thing that I didn't mention is the Colorado Mounted Rangers occasionally came in on horseback to make sure everybody was safe. Do you remember that? No?
Yes, but I'm trying to remember it relative to the snow run, and I don't. There's been other things where they, there's been some enduros around here that they were a nice help with, but I don't really remember. Any of you remember anything like that for the snow run? I don't think so. Yeah.
No horse.
But they definitely keyed in with our sport in other ways, and a nice group of guys. Yeah.
Art Foster was one of the guys with the Mounted Rangers.
Oh, okay.
If you remember Art.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, they were a good group.
Well,
Mostly.
thank you, Don, for speaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have questions or for Bill or stories that they would like to share?
I got one little story. At the beginning of the road where you go up Pikes Peak to the gate there, I stopped and we were going to ride up the mountain to race, and there was a guy on a motorcycle with a sidecar carrying his race bike on the sidecar. That guy thought, boy, you got him. You know, a lot bigger than mine, but, you know, I never even considered that it's so cold of weather, ride a motorcycle with a motorcycle on a sidecar. I had no idea of it, what he did or how he got it. You know.
What year was that?
I think it was in '73.
Probably Mike Stokes. No, he didn't.
Yeah, well, I think this guy, it was 73 or
that came from Ohio, I think it was, that did that in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought that's the most hardcore motorcycle. He's up there with Bill. You know, as far as, yeah. Or boy.
Yeah, but that was, of course, the summer race. That- No.
As fast as you could, and this little buzzy bike went right past me. He told me you went up a gear, you went down a gear, and he just kept gaining. The next day you called Dos Taco, it became a deal.
I remember my first race up there, I still had my matchless 500 scrambler, and I couldn't get over how I get going at that elevation, and these 250s would run right with me, you know, and it kind of hurt my feelings. That elevation is a lot of pretty interesting. Summer or the snow run, you learn some things. You know, that's one of the things, moving here from Southern California as I did, I found out that if you're going to live in this kind of country, you learn how to carburate a motorcycle, or else. And we're California, we never worried about it. You know, I stick a size smaller main jet in for the high desert and call it done, and that was about it. And well, you get out here and it's a different animal. Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, well, we have a question. Come on in.
Comment. I remember in '82, the snow you're going up, but when you got by Elks Park, the way the wind blew, there was no snow on the road, it was just frozen dirt. And a lot of people use sheet metal screws in the tires. and when they hit that really hard frozen dirt, the people in front of me, I remember just like pellets hitting you, because they would rip them out. So it's just like a machine gun of pellets from the person and people in front of you was just ripping them out of their tires.
Yeah, you're getting hit by screws.
Yeah. That's true. That's true, though.
I'm blaming that all on Terry Weigel. He's responsible for the big meat hooks that you see on Mark's bike over there.
I gotta make a comment on Bill's book, my first
Okay.
9 years.
Yeah.
When I was 16 years old, I worked for Bill over the summer, 1973. And I never really got to know the history since he was born, and he covered it all well in the book. It was real enjoyable.
Thank you, Arlo.
I never knew Bill to be that adventurous. You know? And I've been trail riding every year since 1977 with Bill Vickery. So we've been quite adventurous over the years too, but Bill's getting up there in years too, so things are every year slowing down, which was really hard for him and everyone else.
And he was the king of Bonneville too, right? He set a record at Bonneville on the salt flats
Yeah.
way back in the day. Tom?
One more thing to interject. I grew up in Aurora, but the stupid Army ended up getting me in '65 and kind of changed my whole plan of life. But I ended up at Fort Carson in '67, and I wanted to get a motorcycle because my buddy up in Denver showed up the summer of '67 on a '66 Triumph Bonneville.
Wow.
And I wanted one so bad. I went down and I met Bill Brokaw down there in Motor City in July of '67. And I can't believe I've known him that long. I did get an old junker one from Denver, but I couldn't afford the brand new one. I think they were like $1,300 back then. Bonneville. But what is really so cool about that time era, I got out of the Army in '69 when I learned photography over in Okinawa. And I said, I'm going home and I'm going to be a photographer. I had no idea that 2 months later, our paths would cross again and I discovered the motorcycle racing was going on. But my memory of meeting Bill Brokaw in 1967 at the dealership is just a really fond memory. And when I got to read that book, his first 90 years, it just filled in a lot of the gaps that were always there. It was really neat.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the book, what prompted you to write that book, Bill?
Well, my daughter said, I turned 90. They said, well, you ought to write a book.
It's what you did.
So I did, but I'd been writing a few things just for fun, and I incorporated some of them into the book, and then I filled in all the joints, so to speak. And so I had the manuscript in a couple months. But, so, at any rate, it's, you know, really, you may not realize it. 2 things I want to say about the book. The first was I started with my parents. 1926, they were married and they went to a little cow town of Ten Sleep, Wyoming, up here, and they were there for 6 months. My dad got a job as a car mechanic at a little gas station. I think there was 400 people in the town, something like that. And so they stayed there the summer, and they'd gone out there in a touring car from Iowa, and maybe somebody wanted a car, I don't know. Anyway, he wound up ordering an Indian chief with a sidecar from Massachusetts that came on the train to Worland, Wyoming, and he went over there and knocked it out of the crate, put it together, and started our life adventure. And they had more fun with that sidecar and rode it back to Iowa and wound up becoming an Indian motorcycle dealer the next year. And all of those adventures back then, you know, one of the sad things to me, recalling their story, is that World War II ended youth for my father. And so from 1926 till 1941, he had amazing adventures. He was a barnstorm pilot. He built a half-mile track race car, shortly out of high school, really. And he designed it all. It was a very unique car, and he drove it very successfully for 2 seasons. And then the Depression came along, and they never took bankruptcy. And they sold everything to keep their shop building from being foreclosed. And makes me cry.
Aw,
That
tough times.
they toughed those years through, and they had adventures, and so his youth was then, and World War II screwed that up for a lot of people, and it was never the same afterwards, really, even though he was still edited the Motorcyclist magazine for 2 years and that, but what they did in those early years made me. It's that simple. And so it belonged in my book. And maybe we can pick up on that, maybe you can't. But the other thing I want to say about the book, it's full of Holy Spirit stories. I go over these experiences and say, I can't believe it. I survived them. You know, and things worked, and all that. And it wasn't like I was out trying to do things stupid. Well, maybe a little. But you know, I was in the motorcycle business for 35 years. I can't even imagine how many people that I sent off on test rides in traffic. You know, and that includes Los Angeles. And never had anybody injured or killed, worse yet, killed. Yeah, never had anybody injured.
Bill?
Huh?
Can I comment on that? I was there that day the sign fell on you on I-25 there.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, right. My shop was there, and I knew something happened. I came out there, and you were kind of standing around saying, boy, I wore this helmet all these years just for this, or something. You were okay.
Well, it's true. You know, I put my head on the asphalt at 60 miles an hour once, and that was the time. And I says, that was worth buckling a helmet on all these years, just knowing that once, you don't even want that once.
Yeah. Weren't you doing a safety seminar out at the academy when that happened? You were on your way out?
No, I don't know what this was all about. I can't remember. It wasn't at the academy. I'd gone to the community college. So I was coming back on the freeway with a little 400 demonstrator when that happened.
I was there when you did that, when you came back in.
Yeah, I missed about an hour's worth of work or something like that.
My shop was right there, so I just came out of my shop and just to see what it was all about.
Did you hear the sign? Did you hear it all the time?
I heard the noise. I heard it, and it dropped me out.
when that sign went crazy, very metallic sounding, extremely metallic. The only thing that, you know, how things cross your mind in a split second? Well, that was one of them. And the only thing I could even imagine, because nothing in my peripheral vision seemed out of place to start with, and all I could think of was an airplane crashing behind, you know, back here somewhere. And then the sign is, everything's right in the world except this sign is going completely nuts. This big over, you know, it's all steel scaffolding going over the freeway, and
Wow.
and it's just, it's up there doing this for no reason that I can see. And the next thing were these two green sign panels were falling, and I took out the one in the left lane and ducked my head. It got green paint on the back of my helmet here, and then I got pavement over here on this side. But that was quite an experience, and I'm glad you were there. That could verify my crazy story.
That's correct, yeah.
Bill, I've got a question.
Sure.
This is going back to the snow run. What was the biggest bike that ever ran it, and what was the smallest bike that ever ran it?
Oh, I don't think anybody paid attention to those things, to be honest. So I don't know.
Because I remember when I raced, there was a 900 Kawasaki, and he made it to the first corner and launched him into the snowbank. And the smallest, didn't you ride a 125, Dwayne?
No. The last year that I rode it was a Triumph Cub.
A Cub. So
We had to wait at the top till they got up there, and I thought I was gonna get a cup of coffee at the Peak House.
No way, yeah.
Wait for those settlers to get up, you know.
Nobody had gone up there to make you coffee.
I remember somebody had some schnapps.
You know, your question earlier was, why do you guys do that?
Yeah.
Well, my adventure started in 1970. And it was on a 1966 Honda Scrambler. It was 50 cc's. And that's where it started. And soon as you at 13 years old and you climb on the bike, it's all over. And everybody in this room understands what I'm saying. Now, I don't care where you come from or what you do, whether it's trail riding, desert racing, road racing, flat track racing, motocross. These guys all have that in common. That experience of a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And however you want to go about it, even adventures.
Yeah.
You know?
For me,
it's a very special thing.
For me, I picked this picture because it's the classic, you know, kid gets a bike for Christmas, but it's buried. So now what's he gonna do? He's gonna ride it.
Yeah.
You know, I got my first bike at Christmas too, bicycle, but I get it.
Yeah.
Once you've ridden, you're hooked.
You know, even for us, and just taking a moment and looking at everything, you know, Dwayne helped me out in 1973, and I used to go to his house and we'd saw frames apart and I'd watch them weld them together, and the ingenuity that comes from Mr. Brokaw, Dwayne, and everyone else behind me. They're always inventive. They're always creative. And it changes one's life. All these people have made me creative.
And there was no YouTube videos to figure out how to repair something. You had to just figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Don?
When I was a kid, my cousin started taking me to the races in 1958. And the thing I really enjoyed about that, they had a place called Mount Lincoln here in town
Oh, yeah.
that held some events out there.
By the
And
cemetery.
I'd tag along out there, and then the neatest thing about that is that it didn't matter how old you were, they treated you like one of the guys. And they'd take me to the bar afterwards, and I was just one of the guys, you know, they'd go pick me up, and it's that kind of a camaraderie that really gels you to this sport.
There's that word.
Yeah, you know, speaking of who we are, I became very close with the head ranger, Pikes Peak District, Denny Lynch. There may be somebody else that knew him, but we became buddies. I took him on his first motorcycle ride, and I gave him a 175 Enduro Yamaha one time, and he took me on all the forbidden trails over here on the northwest side of Pikes Peak and all that. It was quite a day. And he told me one time, he says, you know, the trouble with you motorcycle riders are you're too damn easy going. And he says, these hikers, they'll stand up and fight for anything. And you guys just want to go somewhere where you're left alone.
Yeah.
And to your own detriment in a certain way of thinking about it, you know. But yeah, that's who we are. We're easy going.
I'd like to share a couple more memories of way back when. One is, my dad would haul me over to the hills.
Did you guys hear him?
City.
I can hear.
Okay, go ahead.
And my Honda 50 didn't have enough power to make it up that big hill. But I can remember Elliot Schultz on that Montesa Code coming up all over there on the rear wheel. And boy, I'd like to do that one day.
He did that and much more.
And some more memories. That tall gentleman in the back row up there with the gray hair. And his buddy Ron Gardner. I believe you graduated in 1971, was it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, they went to Mitchell. That's where I went to high school. And I can remember him and Ron Gardner just sporting around on their 250 Suzuki Savages. I'll never forget that. They're always wheeling, going off the hills and
Showing off.
you know, Kent Wiggle was always going through there on this Suzuki and.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Boy, and then Arlo, of course, he kept getting better and better as a rider and motocross and things, and a tuner, builder, you know, design stuff. And we were out east. I was out there riding. Can't remember what kind of bike, but Arlo was on, say, an XT 500 or something. And we're down on these little gullies, and it's over in the Benny Lewis Ranch, maybe? I don't know, but it was east of Powers a little bit. We're private property, but we were riding in there. And I'm having fun down in the sand, going around a turn, and here comes Arlo up on the bank, just all leaned over and just right, I'm right here, and he's right there going, shoo. And we stop, and I go, oh, Arlo, Dave. But those were fun times when we could ride anywhere in Colorado Springs.
I could count 9 places that you could go fuss around in the dirt with a small motorcycle, at least, you know, and stuff like that. And boy, that didn't last.
No.
Yeah.
The whole west side there, you could do it.
Yeah.
Ride the whole west side.
Yeah.
Mark,
You know, I'm going to tell you about our story. It's related back to Pikes Peak too, actually on the 4th of July run. And I can't remember what year it was, but we, as a group, were up on top there, and they let the cars go down, and we were kind of giving Arlo a bad time. And somebody came up with the idea of Arlo wheeling from the top all the way to the starting line. And I don't know if you guys even knew it, Arlo, Evel Knievel in the relay contest at Snake River. And so he could put that bike up on that back tire and just walk it anywhere. So all the guys got up there, got a big, pocket of cash going, there's no way that this guy can do this, there's just no way. And sure enough, he made the bet, and we did it, and the bet was that if the cars had to stop, which they did sometime, he could put the front wheel down. But I'll be darned if this guy right there didn't wheelie that old Bull Taco from the top all the way down to the starting line. So there are just so many of those great stories that just put a smile on your face, no matter what involvement you had with it. It was just too cool.
Right on.
Arnold's Greyhound bus was a good memory.
Say more.
Lots of memories.
I mean, who has a Greyhound bus?
One time, who knows Dave Dietrich? John Jane?
Yeah.
Mark. Well, he could wheelie too. So one day we're going up Academy Boulevard on the rear wheel, and we were just going in the traffic. And some guy, he must have been a cop or something. Boy, he was mad. Reckless driving. But on a motorcycle, it's not too hard to just kind of go off and disappear from them. Yeah.
So, Tom, you're saying that Arlo had a Greyhound bus to carry all his gear?
Yeah.
Wow.
We were all driving old junker vans and hauling trailers and everything.
Okay.
Nobody had motorhomes back then.
Okay.
And he shows up at the races. He's got him one of those cool Greyhound buses. It's made out of aluminum, like from the 40s or the early 50s.
It was a 1953 GMC coach.
Yeah, it was the neatest thing in the world.
And my dad got that after he retired and then converted it into a motorhome. That's what I used to go to the National Series in 1979.
Wow. Didn't know you were a rock star.
I'm just a normal guy like everybody else.
Yeah. You're just one of those easygoing guys that the Rangers taught him about.
Everybody knew Arlo was special.
Yeah.
It was his personality. He was just a young kid that grew. And just like so many of us, we got to grow with that whole motorcycle racing development. It felt like it started in the late 60s, and it just, the 70s into the 80s, that was the absolute heyday, because all the manufacturers had started developing their technologies at the same time, and I feel sorry for the kids today. If they had to race back in the 60s and the 70s, they wouldn't be having the fun that we had.
No internet, no GPS apps, just winging it. We have a question over here.
So in 1970, my brother said, hey, you want to go race up Pikes Peak? And I was like, in the winter? Yeah. So I think I was 14 or 15 years old. I had a 90cc Suzuki with a Git kit on it. So didn't know anything about it being so cold or anything. So he says, if you wear pantyhose underneath your stuff, you'll be okay. Well, I had to go find mantyhose. So they had a place where you could put your junk in mantyhose. Which was wonderful.
Was it in an egg?
The mantyhose were a little bit small, but that's all right. So
that before or after Joe Namath?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
So we raced up Pikes Peak, and I can still remember the four strokes that were in front of us. Every time it would pop, the ground would show like machine gun fire from the engine. So I found out also how water will affect your motorcycle. I made it about halfway up, and that was it. I had water in my gas, and that was it. So the next year I made it all the way to the top. Thanks to, yeah, I found out how cold is. When we got to the top, I couldn't feel my hands anymore. So the only place that was warm on my body was my mantyhose.
Full circle.
Took my gloves
Good
off,
one.
and that was another adventure too. But I thank my brother for taking me up there. It was something that there's not many people get to do, and we've all done it, so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great one. It took a lot of courage to say mantyhose.
My first encounter with Bill was in 1964. I had a YG1 in 64 when I was 14 that you could legally drive on the street because you could have a license at that point in time. But Bill, I think one of his first races he was throwing was up at Rocky Mountain Paving.
Oh, yeah.
And we went up there and raced that, and that's the first time I ever met Bill. So in 64.
That was a field meet.
Yeah, well, is that what it was? All I remember is going over hills and trying to beat the next guy. That's what I remember.
No, that was a race. They had a race course there.
There was
Oh, the gravel pit, Rocky Mountain Paving, up on the 21st Street Hill.
yeah, there was a race there, and I saw it, and I looked around and I says, I could have a field meet here. You know, California, in my club, field meets were like 1 or 2 a month, and we became really good riders out of these field meets. And so I wanted to put on a California field meet here. So that was my first event, was that field meet. But it was up there, yeah.
1972.
65.
That was
66. 65. That would have been 65 when I
Yeah,
did
it might have
that
been
field meet.
65, but I got the bike at 64.
Yeah.
Had a driver's license, was all over town. I was set free.
14.
14, yeah. What would you like a 14-year-old kid out there nowadays?
5 horsepower or less.
Yeah, that was it. 5 horsepower or less.
License at 14.
I'll tell you, Colorado
I didn't
Springs.
get one.
You didn't get one?
I wanted one.
Yeah, well, I had one.
I had a bicycle until I was 16.
Colorado Springs in those years, in the summer,
Yeah.
you could step outside and hear a small motorcycle being ridden somewhere.
Yeah, all the time, right?
All the time,
Right.
all the time. I had this one kid, he bought a little 80 enduro trail bike, I guess it was.
YG1.
No YZ. It was just a regular YG1T, I think they called him. And he came in maybe a month later, one run and ride. And I looked at the speedometer and I says, it's funny, he's not saying anything about a malfunctioning speedometer. This kid had so much miles on that thing. If it was daylight out, he was riding it. The furthest he ever went was Cripple Creek.
Yeah.
And it was all plugged up. And he had about a month on the bike, you know, I couldn't believe it. But that's the way it was back then. And then the state took it away the next year and I went broke. Of course, I was too dumb to know it, that I was broke, you know, but I was. And yeah, those were interesting times. And I remember went out in the showroom one time and I looked around and I says, holy crap, I'm running a bicycle shop. Yeah, it's just kids. You know, so many were 14, 15, then it turned 16, they didn't want to ride a motorcycle because everybody think they were 14 or 15.
Yeah, well, then you could get a car, so. you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Between cars and motorcycles, what you could afford, you know?
Yeah. But,
What was your first years in Yamaha?
No, 59. First Yamahas were in 58. That's when they came over for Catalina, and, but they were ugly. But 59, they redesigned the whole line, and I went down to Cooper Motors, and they were furnishing me with AGS and matchless, and they had the things. I went and looked at the parts on the shelf, gears. They're beautiful. Then I took one for a ride. I said, this thing is actually fun. And so I became a Yamaha dealer, and 6 months later, Honda got going. Yeah. So,
Comment in the back?
Always remember one thing, at Lakeland Motocross, Cargill really won the track. I always remember that, the national, and you really, the whole track, you know,
The whoops and the jumps and.
I couldn't believe it. Like, yeah, you did that, Cargill. I was to this day.
I remember him wheeling and then dragging the taillight on a TT1.
Yeah.
Trust me, a lot of taillights and a lot of fenders.
Yeah, well, he didn't crash, he just drug it and came back.
God damn. So was Dave Dietrich. Dietrich was powerful.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah.
but you didn't know what you were
He
going to
tried to get in a lot of
This is great. Great audience participation.
Who rode in Motor City back in the day?
Ooh.
Who remembers the wall?
Well, that's what I just said, the walls, man. I was saying, yeah, it's great, wasn't it?
We used to, before we had motorcycles, we'd go out there and watch people
Yeah,
climbing
people
them.
would stop on 21st Street and watch everybody, so then you just get that much crazier, you know, because it drew a bigger crowd, you know? That was the half pipe of back then, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't get to ride at Motor City, but when I was little, we went to church on 8th Street. My parents would drop me off for Sunday school. I'd go in the front door and out the back door.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Mark?
You know, back in the day, around that time, maybe 68, 69, it was the explosion in Colorado Springs, and there were so many young people I can remember that just couldn't wait to get on that motorcycle. And I remember even at night we would ride, and the drive-in theater on 8th Street would let the motorcycle riders in for free to watch the movie.
That was it.
And there would be, there would be 100 of us. And we'd all pile in to the theater and park the bikes and take the speaker off and put it on the ground, and then go to the concession stand and get a hot dog or whatever, and then come back after the movie was over, and then just ride around town till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So Colorado Springs was really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that drive-in. That's what I was thinking when you said 8th Street. That's not there anymore.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It really was. What a great time.
Or maybe, no, that was 21st Street, right?
No, that was a sky view at 21st Street.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is great conversation. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments?
One
Mark?
more thing. I'd like to give a shout out to Terry Weigel and Brian Anderson for the great work they did on putting the old Mako back up to, with the studs and everything. They pretty well handled everything, came over and picked up the bike. So thanks, Brian and Terry. I really appreciate it, guys. It really looks good. Actually race the snow.
One more?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I'd really like to thank Bill and Dwayne Bruner. I live in Denver, and so I I missed out on a lot of Colorado Springs stuff, but I really, really enjoy you guys and what you've done for the sport. Both of
Thank you. Yeah,
Tom, one more?
One more thing. I want to thank you for putting together this reunion, more or less.
Thank you.
It was absolutely fantastic. And the hard work that you put into it, I guess you're gonna do it again in a month or two?
Apparently,
Wow.
to appease all of his adoring fans. If you're up to it, Bill.
That was good.
oh yeah. I want to say one thing. I came out here on a vacation in 1956. Brought a little 21 cubic inch trials bike, matchless. And Doyne and Don Bymaster said, well, we're going to go on a trail ride. You want to join us? I said, sure. So the three of us I met him in a road from Victor over to Hartselle, where they unloaded, and I met him there, and we took off and did Mosquito and Cottonwood and Tin Cup.
Oh, my.
And then they loaded up in Hartselle, and I had to get back to Victor, which I did after dark, and we've been friends ever since. And I don't rub this in, but I called Doyne from California, and I says, "You want a job?" Well, he says, "No." And so then I came out here and eventually got a job from him. But we've been friends for a long time, and you know that when you're a motorcycle dealer, to be honest, you take people's money. And, you know, I've taken money from a lot of you here, and my friends were my customers. Literally, I didn't have any other friends except my customers. And
You gave back a lot more than you ever took.
well, but still, it's what happens in the motorcycle business. With motorcycling, we take care of each other through our friendships and things like that. And I just want to remind you how neat that is. How neat it is. And you know, I wanted to. The whole motorcycle sport is given back. Given back. You do something for your sport, you know, and that's the way I grew up. It's the way I grew up. I go all the way back into the 20s. It's the way it worked. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Brian's holding up the poster that he and Chris have for sale in our store. They're reproductions of the 1980 flyer that was used to promote the race.
Arlo, can I have an autograph?
So 82 is the last year they ran. This is a copy of the original poster, and this is Bill's artwork, so you could get Bill to autograph it, and the money goes to the museum. So they have framed ones as well for a little bit more money. Wow.
Yeah, so unframed is $6 and framed is $12. But Bill, if you're willing to autograph them, that's super special.
Yeah, multiple autographs.
All right, well, give it up for Bill Brokaw.
Starting out